Hello, everybody, and welcome to Rewind to Raw. It's John Pollock and Wai Ting. A huge week begins now for post wrestling. All roads lead to Newark, which I'm sure is somebody's slogan in life. All roads lead to Newark. How are you, Wai?
I'm doing pretty well, John. Yeah, this is our, I guess, 5th anniversary week. Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah, did you get me anything?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the 5-year anniversary?
I don't know. Maybe a nice chain. I'll get you. I don't know, dude. Well, my well wishes. What could be more valuable than that?
I'm pretty high maintenance, so I expect something that's going to really wow me. So you have 5 days, Wai.
Damn. Okay.
It is this Saturday, QXT's Nightclub, 248 Mulberry Street. We are going to be live in living color with all of you joining us for our special 5-year anniversary show. It all kicks off at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We are going to have Braden and Davey in the house. I understand Fire Frank is going to be making his way to the 5-year anniversary show, perhaps a title defense on the way. And then Wai and I will be getting up on stage. We'll be doing about an hour or so of Q&A, all questions welcome. So we hope to hear from many of you and your chance to meet the likes of W.H. Park, Mike Murray, Brandon Thurston, Chris from L.A., Rich Fan, I understand, is going to be there. It is going to be just a plethora of people. Andrew Thompson will be in the house this Saturday. It is all happening. Postwrestling.com/live for your last-minute tickets. And then after this Saturday, you will never have to hear us again. Plug.
Well, yeah. So, that's it. I don't want to drag this out anymore. People, I feel like you have to know by now. Okay, if you don't know by now, you're probably not coming. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, if I get one comment from someone next Monday saying, "Oh, I thought it was on Sunday," I might just send you a virus or something on you with my reply to your email or something like that. Yeah. So this Saturday, 1 p.m., we hope to see you all there. And also coming up this week, just to get the key stuff out there, Saturday night, Wai and I will be doing a post show. I don't know what time it will be up. I have figured out, Wai, that we are walking distance from the arena. So whenever that press conference ends, I'm going to just sprint back, and then we'll do a review. I'm going to be exhausted, and then we'll crash from a very long day on Saturday. I am just so thankful we don't have some 8 a.m. flight to make on Sunday.
I mean, we're probably going to have to be at the airport by 10, so it's not that big of a difference. But yeah, no, it's not a short trek either way. So yeah, good.
So that's on Saturday. Kate and Nate will be handling Rewind to SmackDown on Friday for Post Wrestling Cafe members. Wai and I will be here on Wednesday night. But tomorrow night, it is MCU Later, but a very special edition of the show. It is going to be the assembly of the MCU Later pillars coming together for Wakanda Forever, which Wai you have now seen.
I have saw it on the Sunday. Had the grandparents watch over the baby, and my wife and I had our first outing since the baby was here.
Oh, wow.
To watch the movie. So we'll be talking all about it. It'll be me. It'll be Rich Fan. It'll be W.H. Park. It'll be Scrump from Pro Wrestling Tees, and Nate Milton, of course.
Oh, wow.
So all 5 of us having a roundtable discussion about our thoughts about the movie. And yeah, tune into it if you're a member of the Post Wrestling Cafe or YouTube member here at youtube.com/postwrestling.
Yes, postwrestlingcafe.com, $6 a month gets you all of the bonus shows, including the Wakanda Forever review, Rewind to SmackDown. If we have some time, maybe we will get some bonus stuff out there over the weekend. We shall see. But that is your access. Sign up any time of the month. You don't have to outsmart Patreon. They've made it very easy for you to get the best value now when you sign up, and access to our entire archive. And Rewind Away will be returning next week. Which will be quite the response coming off of our trip to chat some NWA TNA next week.
Speaking of the NWA,
they had a pay-per-view on Saturday, maybe the most appropriately titled pay-per-view a company has ever had in its history. They presented Hard Times, the 3rd installment of such a show. Now, I was watching UFC all Saturday night, so there was one man that we had to bring on to talk to us about the fallout from this event, because I can't remember the last time NWA has been so much in the the ecosystem of professional wrestling. I wouldn't say it is positive, but it's nonetheless there. The word is getting out there. John Siino joins us on Rewind to Raw, coming off of NWA's Hard Times event on Saturday night. John, what happened at this show?
Oof. This was a show, for sure. The glory days of NWA, unfortunately, are not there anymore. Like, I used to enjoy this show back when we had Ricky Starks and Eddie Kingston and Thunder Rosa. So now it's a little bit hard to digest this show, and especially with all the stuff that was going into this show, it definitely made it a harder viewing.
So all week long, the attention was off of the pay-per-view, and it was all on Nick Aldis, who has given his notice to the company. He was thus removed from the show where he was going to be in a small match with Odinson. So he's off the show. That dominated any discussion of the NWA show. And then it was kind of just this odd set of circumstances that, I mean, Friday, you have Sarah Logan returning on SmackDown, and there was actually like some buzz on Max the Impaler, who was going to be on this show. Coming out of this card, I did not sense much goodwill of the people that watched this card. And like, I have the quotes here, but in a nutshell, like Billy Corgan has stated, listen, I don't care if you don't like this. This is what we're doing. And if you don't want to watch this, don't watch it. And the mentions that I've seen today, it just seems like I don't know why you would ever choose to go to war with your fans, but it just seems to be an overwhelming response of, dude, we have carved out maybe some attention that you will have, and you will not have any more of it after this. It just seems like it is a product that has, it's like actively fighting its fan base. It's the strangest thing to see play out in this way.
And let's just say people did order the pay-per-view just for Max the Impaler, because on the pre-show that was free on YouTube, they definitely hit over the head that Max the Impaler was going to start the show. This was not a good show to introduce people to NWA and bring people back to NWA. There was so many things that were wrong with this show, as far as like the referees. Like, I feel like every match there was a botched spot with like the referees like pretending to be distracted, but they really weren't. Then you had this EC3 debacle, like in the middle of the match, just cut a very disgusting promo on Tom Latimer. They're like, the only like redeeming quality of the show, I'd have to say, is maybe like the Bobby Fulton thing, like this throat cancer survivor coming in his old Fantastic Gear, cutting a passionate promo. That was awesome. And then Kerry Morton winning the junior heavyweight title because his dad was in his corner. Like, other than that, I really can't say there was too much positive coming out of this show.
One of the interviews that Billy Corgan did was with JBL and Gerald Briscoe. And this was transcribed by Andrew Thompson on the site. So I'm just going to read a portion of this. This was Billy Corgan, and this was before the pay-per-view going into it. Corgan says, I want to bring back a traditional mainstream product to television, national television or international television. It's not complicated. In terms of the vibe, I like that old shooter vibe. I want you to watch people who you believe can beat your ass. That's it. And I want the toughest to win, and I want the toughest to feel like they're the stars of our company. And it's interesting because as I've pivoted to that over the last 18 months and really built the company around the toughest people, not always the biggest, but the toughest people, I really see how it's starting to click. In essence, I finally connected that passion that I had for Bruiser Brody when I was a kid to the modern version of the NWA. A lot of people in the wrestling community, and I know it's a highly debated topic, like what's going on with, I'll call it the 8-star Meltzer matches and all that stuff. And I like that stuff too. But if we're talking business, just straight business, not fan stuff, I still believe in Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. And in this, referring to his main event with Matt Cardona, who's recast himself on the independent scene, and the star that he is versus Tyrus, who's 6'8", 375 pounds, against Trevor Murdoch, who's 6'3", and another 350. I want to see that match. If you don't want to see stuff like that, don't watch the NWA, because that's what I'm going to give you. More and more of that. And as we climb, and I'm kind of able to develop younger talent in the mold of the NWA, we will be the toughest, hardest hitting wrestling promotion in the world. So that's, you don't like this? Tough. Literally, that is our mantra. We are going to be the toughest promotion. And listen, I think the NWA, they have greatly struggled. They are trying to find an audience, but to me, I just find it to be such a turnoff when this idea is that we always have to appeal our product to people that are not watching wrestling, that have no interest in this stuff. Like, that is who we want to reach. And this is ultimately saying, like, your core fan base that would go out of their way on a Saturday night to watch this. It's like actively saying, we don't want to market towards you. Like, we are not even going to give you that base product. I just think this is like the worst message to give to your audience. And I just, it's a real questionable tactic, and just almost comes across as like desperate that you're having such a defensive posture towards your audience and almost daring them not to follow or spend money on their product.
Yeah, I really don't understand who they're trying to cater to. Like, are they trying to cater to the people that don't like the flippy flop wrestlers? Or the this is the control your narrative fan base that like isn't really around anymore because they're not running shows. Like, I don't know what they're really trying to get with this like negative publicity that like, you know, come watch Tyrus, come watch Trevor Murdoch. Like, I don't really understand Billy Corgan's whole purpose in this.
It just seems to be as though this philosophy of like, you know, it's almost like we want to present something like who are the toughest guys, and yet this product, I think it's filled with like a lot of wacky characters and gimmicks, and you know, there was a lot of negativity, I think, towards Tyrus coming out of this show, and then this Billy Corgan comments that he made both on Busted Open last week, and I think honestly, like the way everything went down with Nick Aldis, I think that Billy Corgan had like a defense, but I just think he really did not endear himself after these comments to his audience. So, I mean, it's just this great question of when we talk about this countless shows and pay-per-views that are out there every single weekend, it's so many choices, and the idea that your audience would choose you, and it's like this is the kind of message that you are sending out. It just feels like this is a product that I can't say it doesn't know what it is, because it seems like Corgan has some vision of what he wants this to be. I go back to your question, John. Who are these people that they are seeking? These like non-wrestling fans that are going to fall onto this fight subscription or on YouTube and be buying a $30 pay-per-view on a Saturday night when you can see the toughest people fighting on ESPN for free the same night.
And that's another thing. Like, it's not even included in the Fight Plus package. It's like a whole separate NWA All Access package that you need to get in order to watch like their weekly YouTube shows and their pay-per-views and everything. The next couple months should be pretty interesting. Like, they have a lot of eyeballs on them right now, mostly negative. But like what they do between now and I know in January they have a live show on a Tuesday, which is like pretty random to have like a live Power episode. But I'm wondering if they have maybe something up their sleeves, like just to get like a train wreck trend going on, just like they did with the pay-per-view. I'm just really intrigued what they're going to do the next couple of months, but it could be one of those things where they just drive every single fan away from their product.
Did they say if that would be a 6:05 start time for the live show, or would it, because there's the potential of that running against NXT that you would think that they would want to avoid?
They didn't say it, but I'm going to assume so because their Power has been at 6:05. They kind of like, by tradition, they like to do with that time. So I doubt we're going to have any sort of head-to-head, but I wouldn't be surprised if they like maybe like advertise something big for that special show, I guess.
Was there anything on the show that was of that was hidden in there among all the many title matches on this show? Were there any positives for you coming out of this show?
Colby Carino and Davey Richards probably had the best match, which is like ironic because like Davey Richards has been defending this MLW title that he hasn't even won yet on MLW TV. So it's like he's defending it in New Japan and NWA, and it's like I didn't even know he won the title. So that match was good. I know that was like a dream for Colby to fight one of his idols in Davey Richards. Love Rebellion's been good. You know, Bestia 666 and Mako Wolf, they had a match against Hawks Irie, so it's cool to kind of see Luke Hawks and his son PJ. But that was another match where like the referee distraction kind of like messed up the match. Other than that, yeah, there really wasn't too much positivity. You had Max the Impaler. They won a casket match against Natalia Markova that was kind of like wacky. You have all these like you said, wacky gimmicks. You have like Gags the Gimp and Scion the Masked Superstar, and it's not even like wacky fun. It's just like wacky. I don't really want to keep following this, but you know, somebody has to, right?
Yeah, I think we've got a new term in the lexicon introduced by Nick Aldis. Does this product pass the Harley race test? And I guess he has now introduced that as the barometer for NWA. But John, we appreciate you as always doing your coverage on the site. If you want to go through his report, it's up there at postwrestling.com. And we will be seeing John in Newark this coming weekend. So beyond the anniversary show that John you will be in attendance for, what are your plans wrestling wise this weekend? Will you be at Full Gear?
Yes, I'm Gonna be skipping Rampage. I've had my share load of Rampage this year, but I'll definitely be at Full Gear.
Okay. Well, we look forward to it. Shot in the Dark drops every Wednesday. The best 15 minutes you can invest. If you're not following along in the NWA, he's got the best 3-minute NWA recap for you every week as part of Shot in the Dark. So thanks as always for jumping on, John, and we will see you in Newark this week.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Siino.
So there you have it. Wai will be furiously ordering this replay as soon as we are done to go watch Hard Times 3. Did that sell you on it?
I feel like I've seen enough already. Yeah.
We have some other news items to get to. Some unfortunate news coming out of mixed martial arts over the weekend. It was first reported by Ariel Helwani, the passing of Anthony Rumble Johnson at the age of 38. Johnson had been dealing with a disease for quite some time, and it has since been reported that he passed away from organ failure caused by complications from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and HLH. That he had been, Scott Coker had alluded to this at a point earlier this year that, I mean, they kept it quiet, but it was, kind of circulating that he had been, dealing with something, but the severity of which, obviously, I think this still caught many people off guard. Anthony Johnson was somebody that, I mean, if you got to see this guy fight, especially in the last couple of years, the most striking takeaway was seeing this guy who was just a monster at light heavyweight, and even fought as much as heavyweight when he went to World Series of Fighting. This guy started off his career as a welterweight, and you see this guy, and I met him in person multiple times. The idea that this man ever got onto a scale and saw the numbers 170 underneath, like, you just could not process that this guy made 170, and he had a hell of a struggle with his weight, and that ultimately cost him his first run in the UFC, where he missed weight. He moved up to middleweight and then missed middleweight by 11 pounds for a fight with Vitor Belfort in 2012. So then he was cut after losing to Vitor, and that's where he, it was a case of a guy that gets cut by the UFC, reinvented himself outside, and found light heavyweight to be his weight class, and was there right at the beginning of the World Series of Fighting promotion, which eventually became the PFL in its current form, and then was brought back to the UFC, and then went on his biggest run at this point at 205 pounds. He came in and he fought Phil Davis at UFC 172, and this was a fight that the belief was Phil Davis wins this fight, and he is probably next in line for John Jones, who is going to be fighting Glover Teixeira on that same card. And dude, Anthony Johnson came in, and it was the best performance I have ever seen Anthony Johnson have. Over 3 rounds, stopping Phil Davis, having like answers for his takedowns. Like, this guy just had a phenomenal performance over 3 rounds. And then we saw just the knockout gallery from Anthony Johnson, where this dude was one of the scariest knockout artists in the entire sport, knocking out Lil Nogueira, Alexander Gustafsson, who he beat in Sweden. And then that got him a chance to fight John Jones, and was scheduled to fight him when John Jones had his hit and run incident back in 2015. So it became Johnson and Daniel Cormier. And if you remember this fight, Anthony Johnson connects and Cormier goes down. And I believe afterwards, Cormier said that was the hardest shot he has ever felt in his career. But Cormier was able to recover and use his wrestling and submitted Johnson. And that's how close Anthony Johnson came to winning the title. He then went on another stretch of impressive knockouts, including Glover Teixeira in 13 seconds, and then had a rematch with Daniel Cormier that I believe you were with me to cover in Buffalo. And that was where he got submitted a second time by Daniel Cormier. And then in the cage, he all of a sudden announces his retirement. And as I recall, like, there were people around Johnson that had no idea he was going to be announcing his retirement, and just alluded to that he had other things that he had planned in his life, and ended up starting a CBD oil company, and got involved in different things, came back with Bellator and fought with them once last year, and then sort of disappeared. And this is what he was dealing with. But I mean, a guy who's 38 years of age, and just looking at his birthday, I mean, this guy was born days before us, Way. Like, that really kind of hits you.
He's 3 days older than you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's kind of crazy for me, as somebody who really hasn't been following much MMA. So like I don't really know much of what this man has been up to and haven't really been following his story. So my last memory of him was from that particular fight, his retirement fight, where I just felt like, the mood was relatively celebratory, going out, not with a win, but like I think with about as close as you can get to, a championship victory. And I think the mood that he was in, even in losing, he seemed so happy to like, have accomplished so much in his career and seemed to be on to, greater and better things. And it's just incredibly sad. A man at his age, had to have his story ended so soon and so abruptly. It's incredibly sad.
Yeah. So, I mean, our condolences to his family. Like it's a tragedy. A lot of people have, compared with like Elias Theodoro, who as well, like was suffering and no one was aware of it. It's just, it's a tragically young age for an individual to pass away at. Over in WWE, a few news and notes. Fightful Select had a report today that an offer has been made to Steve Austin for another match, but not aware of who the opponent would be, what the event would be, and whether it will ultimately happen. But the new regime has made an offer to Steve Austin. You would think, Wai, that this would be WrestleMania, unless it was,
Saudi. Potentially.
Saudi Arabia, you have to look at. I just wonder if they would be planning that far ahead, but it could be just as a blanket offer about, hey, what is your interest level? And it seems like Austin was extremely happy with how the Kevin Owens match went, and that's what we said in the lead up to this. Like if this goes really well, it's gonna be very hard to just flip that switch off after 19 years. And if it goes well, and I don't know if that could have gone much better than it did in Texas earlier this year with Owens. And, he's going to be 58 next month. So it's not like you've got another 19 years to ponder about doing another match. Now's the time, and it's unbelievable money that is probably staring at him. And that he's not a guy that is worried about money at this point in his life, but at the same time, it's ridiculous amounts that he's probably staring at. And when you have the example, it went through and you look great, that's obviously going to motivate people.
Posted an Instagram video recently showing his workouts. I can't play it in the browser here, but showing that he's still in incredible shape, carrying on from, you would assume, the level he was at WrestleMania. And, John, once the seal is broken, what else? What are you left protecting here? The man was concerned, I would assume, maybe for all those years about harming his legacy, came back and, was in a very different style of match. But nonetheless, I think for a lot of people, I mean, one of the highlights, if not the highlight of that year's WrestleMania, both nights. So, I think that probably gave him a lot of confidence. And also, I mean, there's no real risk. I mean, he could come back and have a bad performance, but I also don't think he's going to. I think there are enough sort of ways you can craft a wrestling match to make him look great, maybe do a brawl style. I would like to see him have a proper match. And if he's coming back and if he's, looking for a good money deal coming off of it, I feel he's probably quite confident that he could do more than what he even did at WrestleMania.
If you're looking at it just from the perspective of, what it's going to cost for these performers and what you want to get out of it, is if you had Austin and Rock on the table, is that almost too much, even with 2 nights of WrestleMania when, at the same time, we know how these go. Like WrestleMania, you make it as big as you can, and then who's there the next night and who's there the next month. And that's kind of the balancing act. Like, is it sort of the idea? And those guys are not coming back for a match at a cheap price either. It's like, do you just go through? It's a chance to have both of them back. We just go balls to the wall and book them both.
I just don't get the sense that there's any dollar figure. Like, I mean, say for, I don't know, something egregious. Like, I don't even know what a number would be, but I think for what either an Austin or a Rock would be asking for realistically, there doesn't seem to be an amount that I don't think the WWE could afford, especially with the business that they've done.
They can afford it, but it's just when you look at like the economics of it, it is, we're getting a flat amount from Peacock, And these shows are going to sell out. The tickets have been like, they have got off to tremendous starts. So obviously there is, many, many benefits to having these, and overall interest in your product will be so high. And maybe you're looking at it from that strength. Hey, that's right around the time that these television negotiations are heating up. Having Austin and Rock on our television, even sporadically, is only going to intensify our general awareness that we go all out, because maybe that's what they're looking at. It's not about selling tickets or even Peacock subscriptions. It is just look at the buzz that they got this year coming out of Mania with everything. Like it genuinely helped their profile. And if you had a Rock and or Austin attached, like come next March, WWE is going to be at a very high popularity peak.
It's one of those things, though, that I think is very much affected by timing. Certainly when it comes to Dwayne Johnson, you're not going to be guaranteed that he'll be available at next year or the year.
It's a big question mark. Like that's when the XFL's starting, how many projects he has going on. I mean, it's to me, if you were asking me today, like who would be the more reliable individual, like it's Austin. Like with Rock, I don't even know like when you have to lock that in, and if he even can lock that in. Like that's, obviously his schedule will dictate it.
I think in both their cases, you strike while the opportunity is there. Who knows if Steve Austin will be in whatever shape. I imagine it's a struggle to perhaps stay in the shape that he's in every single day at 58. So who knows if he'll have the opportunity next year to tell these stories. If they're available, I would say absolutely do them. The only question is whether or not it would be a WrestleMania or another show.
Some injury
and who would get the spot?
Well, that's the other option. It's, with Dwayne, I think everyone knows what the destination would be. With Austin, it becomes a more interesting question. Like, do you go the dream match route with like somebody else? Do you go with, it's going to be, I think ultimately what Austin is looking for is somebody that can be at the level or above of what a Kevin Owens was, who was a fantastic opponent for him. And, that was 20 years ago. His hesitancy with doing the Hogan match was the idea that it just like, that's as big a match as they could have booked in 2002. And it was Austin's reluctance of like how that match turns out. So, if you've got like a shorter list at that point where, whether it's a Seth Rollins, whether it's a
AJ,
that's kind of the level. Like, I think you want someone that can talk, but ultimately someone that you can like an Austin can't get away with 4 minutes. Like, I think you need to do something close to what they did with Owens earlier this year. That is, a full match, even with the smoke and mirrors that they had with the no holds barred aspect to it. Is there anyone that jumps out at you that would be that person?
I'm trying to think of like, characters that I feel would fit that sort of dream match, level. If a John Cena is available, do you pull that trigger? I mean,
it's a huge match.
They're both guys that aren't going to be around the next day, but nonetheless, it's arguably the biggest match you could possibly make. I mean, Dwayne Johnson, Roman Reigns aside. And it's sort of a dream match of, franchise players from two different eras finally meeting. But do you stand to gain any value beyond that one night or that run up until that night?
I mean, historically, it's been, there's a downside to that style of matchmaking for WrestleMania, but the benefit is that one big night that you get, and sometimes that's worth the kind of malaise that you will have post WrestleMania, and who they can get in the mix too. Like they have, by that time, like Cody will be back. Hopefully, like some of like your Becky Lynch's are back, Charlotte's back. I mean, it's going to be like those two nights. This is not the this is certainly a Mania where it looks like they will have quite a lot at their disposal potentially. So some injury notes. It was first reported by the Observer, and we were able to confirm this, that Kevin Owens apparently suffered a knee injury on Sunday at the house show in Madison, Wisconsin. The Observer reporting that's believed to be a right MCL sprain in his knee, and the hope is that it's not any worse than this. So that, I guess, is, just wait and see in terms of the severity of it. If it's just a sprain, then that's a minor injury for him. But, without knowing how the whole War Games thing shakes out, I mean, many people expecting Owens and Zayn on opposite ends, and hopefully this does not throw a wrench if that is, in fact, the desired plan for them. because, you would think that like Owens would be a very big contributor into this story and has been off television for several weeks now.
And on a babyface side that has to oppose a team that is as over as Sami Zayn with the bloodline, you need somebody that is as well liked as the Kevin Owens on that side to really even things out. But I would still say, like, I don't think he's necessarily integral to the team. And I think you could still tell an Owens and Zayn story down the line, even if he's to miss this one. But it would be a shame if he was originally set to be there, of course.
Yeah, especially if it's designed to work itself into the finish, where it's they're on opposite sides and then one of them is coming to save the other. You can get creative even if Owens isn't in the match itself, or
even if he's got a sprain, like, can he do enough, or can they craft a spot around it just to kind of have him in and out?
Well, I would say if it's only a sprain, I don't think it would be a big enough issue that it would prevent it. It's only if, hopefully it's nothing worse. With the knee, that's obviously the hope. The other one concerns Rey Mysterio. Ringside News had reported that he had suffered an injury, a short-term injury, and was in a walking boot on Friday at SmackDown. And then in a follow-up from the Observer site, which I was also able to confirm, is that Mysterio was supposed to be in the World Cup tournament. He has been replaced by Mustafa Ali. So it would have been Rey Mysterio against who was
Ricochet.
it? Ricochet. Okay, so that would have been your opening match. Prince Puma and Rey Mysterio in a rematch. So Rey, he was in a walking boot, but I guess the hope is that this is only a short-term injury and that he's back relatively soon. So that is your injury update going on there. Friday Night SmackDown did tremendous. It was the number one show on all of television Friday night with 2,264,000 viewers, a 0.58 in 18 to 49, their highest numbers since the big White Rabbit tease on September 23rd. So this was a gigantic number for SmackDown. They were up. It was their highest 18 to 34 since that September 23rd episode. Just a very strong showing for SmackDown. And this was largely paced by, the first half hour was the Usos New Day match that had been built up. You also had the Bloodline that they built the show towards at the end of it. So a very healthy increase over the previous week for the show. Not having such a great Friday night was Rampage, that did 458,000 viewers, which was basically identical to the amount of viewership they did last week. But their 18 to 49 number fell 24% from last week, and falling out of the top 50 original cable programs on Friday, which is very, very rare for Rampage. They were up against, there was NBA, there was college football, but And there was still, you did see some news coverage still on the midterms that was occupying some spots. But I mean, Rampage lost to things in their, they lost to a show, I think, on the Food Network in their time slot as well. So it seems like we don't have as much of a breakdown because it wasn't in the top 50, but their viewership was similar. It seems like it was likely their younger audience that was down. And I just have to look at this way that an Orange Cassidy, Lee Johnson main event, this is the reality, and this was in its normal time slot, the second lowest 18 to 49 number in Rampage history. And you kind of have to look at just what was on the lineup. And Lee Johnson is an unproven entity in a main event, and I think that that kind of comes with main eventing a show, is when it doesn't draw, it's not an established entity to me as at least one of the factors.
Well, absolutely, sure, and I certainly hope Lee Johnson gets zero part of the blame for it, because it's the matchmaking. I mean, I would go as far as to say, I don't think much effort was put into matchmaking to try to spike any sort of significant rating. And I think if you look at the type of maybe even special attraction matchmaking that they're putting on Rampage right now, whether it be Shibata, a week prior, or next week with Jun Akiyama versus Eddie Kingston, I don't feel like they are making an effort really to try to, get into the top, or at least increase higher than their usual places. I think they're instead looking to attract the maybe lapsed hardcore wrestling fan that might have watched Rampage consistently, that has stopped watching Rampage, or I don't even know, maybe watching Rampage on a DVR at this point. So I don't think they should be surprised at these sort of results.
And it also, like, it's not the end of the world if you get a number like this, but the idea going in is that, okay, Lee Johnson is not established, but this is a building process, and that's fine. You are going to have to sacrifice numbers to get guys into those spots so that your audience accepts them. The issue becomes if Lee Johnson is just a background player after this, or he disappears for 4 weeks and then we go back to him, then it's sort of like you just threw a guy out cold. He didn't even benefit anything from it, and there's no follow-up to him. Well, he's right back where he started, only he's got this attachment to him, like with a number here. So it's like sometimes you're going to have to give up numbers to try and build stars, but if there's no follow-up to them, then it's all for naught. It's like you're not even building off of anything.
I wouldn't attach a single thing with this number to Lee Johnson. You know, like it could have been any single person out there. Really, it was just an Orange Cassidy match. If you pin it on anybody, then you can perhaps pin it on Orange Cassidy. Like he is the man supposed to be who's supposed to be attraction, and his opponent could have really been anybody. Lee Johnson, I don't think has even had like a singles match on Dynamite. Like I can't tell you when. I can't even tell you his last appearance on Rampage. So I think he, you know, none of it should be on him. What was the first match that took place on Rampage that day?
It was Brian Cage and Dante Martin.
Yeah, I mean, again, I wouldn't put it on any of those guys because to me, Rampage is always like pretty, like for the most part, like a collection of just dudes that are supposed to be in ROH that you don't see on Dynamite, and occasionally a tag match with the John Moxley and, you know, lately Orange Cassidy title defenses. Beyond that, like I don't think you can really attribute anybody as any sort of significant draw, and therefore you shouldn't be placing the blame on them if the number is bad.
No, I'm just saying, like, these are not like listen, this was just a lineup that people were not as interested in, and thus they had like a number like this. And you know, it's like there's different ways of how you can approach these shows. Do you just load them up with your established stars? Is it the show where we put out people like this and then we have less concern if like there's a bad number, but there's a purpose for it to build these people? Like if they have a plan for Lee Johnson, great, but to just throw out someone cold like this, you've got to expect that there's going to be an audience that's not going to be interested. That, like, is there a chance in hell that you would see Orange Cassidy and Lee Johnson headlining a Dynamite ever? Like you wouldn't even like. There's absolutely no way you would ever see that in a main event slot on Dynamite, because people know what the standard is on Dynamite of like who they put in those precious time slots.
Yeah. You know, like at the end of this year, I feel like how Tony Khan views AEW Rampage will continue to be like one of the big questions. I feel like it's been a lot of things over the past year where maybe it started off in the year as more of a real destination, and it would be the places where you'd have to go to see guys like Hook, see special attractions like that. But over time, it just kind of has felt like, you know, an extension of AEW Dark, where you're just gonna, you know, go there to see guys get that extra ring time that they're not supposed to get on Dynamite, without that much effort put into like creating stories for their particular matches. And that it seems to be like it's a strategy that they're like really dedicating themselves to. And one of the examples I think we're starting to see is like with somebody like a Jun Akiyama getting on the show. Like we'll see tomorrow how much attention is put into like, you know, crafting any sort of like hype for it, or if it's just, you know, 30 seconds of Eddie Kingston speaking and then you get the match on Friday. And for a lot of people that'll be enough, but will it be enough to like, you know, improve its ranking? I'm not sure.
Maybe Tony Khan should come out and say, for people complaining about Rampage and some of these, the matchmaking, if you don't like this, then don't watch, because I'm going to be this is what I'm doing, okay? I'm doing more of this. I don't want to hear any of your feedback, okay? This is what we're going to be doing. And Young Rock on Friday Night Way, we are up to his heel turn, joining the Nation of Domination on the show. And there was no dominating by NBC on Friday night. They did 1,426,000 viewers, a 0.22 in the demo, down 21% in viewers, down 15% in the demo from the season premiere the week before. So among the big four networks, they were last in total viewers, but they were only second last in 18 to 49 because they beat a replay of Blue Bloods on CBS. So there you have it. Young Rock did not come in last in 18 to 49. For the network program. So
you beat a replay of Blue Bloods, and the next is you know, the big guns. So
yes. Yeah, the president that Dwayne Johnson lost to in 2032, he contacts Dwayne Johnson because there's a coffee shortage in the U.S. and they have found a country that has all of this excess coffee beans, and they want to send Dwayne Johnson because the president of this country is a big rock fan.
Okay.
Have I sold you on this season of Young Rock? Is this going to raise their viewership?
I might have to, I'm sure it'll be different watching it than how you described. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, final thing here. Speaking of Rampage, on November 25th, a week from Friday, this will be Black Friday. They will be bumped for the NHL on TNT. So Rampage will be airing at 4 p.m. Eastern time on TNT. So I love this personally. This will probably be not great for Rampage, but for me, this is tremendous. We can go live that night at like 10 o'clock. This is a wonderful.
We'll go live at 5 p.m. if you want, John.
Well, I mean, there will be SmackDown still.
Oh, okay.
I don't think we can warrant the 5 p.m. live start time. But
I'm
yeah,
joking.
That will be next Friday.
Okay.
I'm all for this. I would love if Rampage was on at 4 o'clock every Friday. That'd be much easier for my life. So maybe they should move it there.
Might have some extra time to even go shopping afterwards, John. Try to get in with the lineups. Try to get a TV.
This would be. They should have like the after school block on TNT where it's Rampage and throw Power Slap. Move it from TBS to TNT and do 2 hours of after school programming on Fridays.
Throw it on PBS. I think it's great programming. Forget TBS. Power Slap on PBS. So, it's perfect after school.
So I've never watched any of this slap fight stuff, but after all of this coverage last week, I felt I owed it to myself to at least look into this stuff. So I watched some of it. Mm-hmm. Dude, this stuff is insane. Okay, it's utterly insane. And granted, I watched a highlight where it's like craziest knockouts, and dude, it's just like they're just sleeping these dudes. Like it's apparently like you can't flinch either. So they go, it's like 1, 2, like I would never be able to do this, and then boom, they wallop them. And there's dudes like out cold, dude. Like they just get corpsed on the panel. Like this. I don't know. It looks nuts. I'm sure there's going to be those that are advocates for this, or Dana White's going to have his whole list of how this is safe. But I just watch it. I'm like, I don't understand this.
I need to look at that list. If he has an explanation for how, just
dude, Nevada approved this. Like, what does that tell you? Like, one thing I can tell you, if Dana White was not involved in this with the Fertittas, we're not talking about any of this. There is no TV deal. There is no Nevada sanctioning this. Like, there is no way. There is no way. Like, this will honestly make Nevada, which is one of the more serious commissions. We're not talking about Texas or Florida here. This is the Nevada State Athletic Commission that has okayed this. And, I mean, the proof will be in the pudding when this happens. But like, I just watch it, and
when dudes are getting knocked out like that, I mean, what's is there any sort of protection in not allowing a closed fist? Like, if a strike, let's just call it what it is, if a strike from this range with an open palm is enough to knock a guy out, well then, like, why? What's the difference between that and just honestly like a closed fist? I suppose less frequency of knockouts, but it's still an incredibly powerful blow that seems like it'll be enough to, like, KO a human being.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to know the slap fighting experts out there. I know that slap fighting is a no-no term, but on this show we can call it slap fighting.
All right.
Okay. All of your news can be found postwrestling.com. The schedule is up there, and again, Wakanda Forever review Tuesday night, postwrestlingcafe.com with Wai Ting, Nate Milton, Scrump, Rich Fan, and of course WH Park, who will all be coming together for this big review.
10 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be sending out the link to all members and also patrons a bit later on tomorrow, and then it'll be out in the archive as well for all of the people that are signed up to our exclusive feed.
And also from the weekend, WrestleNomics dropped with Brandon and Jesse going over all the latest news and the pay-per-view. Full Gear coming up this weekend. Post Pro Res with WH Park and Karen Peterson, who is over in Japan right now as we speak. And a special on-the-road edition of the UFC 281 post show. Me, live from the BDE, reviewing UFC 281, which was an awesome card on Saturday night. That is also up on the free feed and at youtube.com/postwrestling. I survived. I made it to the BDE and then rode my bike home, and it was like snowing. I froze to death on my way
That's
home.
a long ride.
Dude, it was a lot longer than I envisioned in my head. It took me over like a half hour to bike home, and it was just so cold.
Well, worth it?
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Yeah. Let's get into Raw. Hey, guys, what are you doing tonight? We're going down to the KFC Yum Center.
Oh,
home of the memorable edition of Raw on Monday night.
Oh, one of my favorite stadium names, it's I mean, really, it's the name of the brand, of course, and you can't really get around it. But just something. It really is the arena shaped like it should be shaped like a bucket? Don't you think?
I doubt it is, but that would be a creative way to do it. That's what I always liked about the Saddle Dome was it was like in the shape of a saddle.
Okay.
Just kind of like a bowl.
Well, I meant like a KFC bucket.
I understand. Seth Rollins starts the show, and he recaps Austin Theory's cash-in as the crowd chants, "That was stupid," over Austin Theory's failed cash-in last week. And he is really putting this U.S. title over as the top title on Monday night. So they're really trying to put some prestige onto this U.S. title, as it would seem like the idea of Roman keeping these two belts is not one that they are going to be distancing themselves from anytime soon. And I'm fine with that, to be honest.
Even if Roman were to lose at some point in the next, where are we at? 6 months. I still think it's a great idea to try to promote your secondary championships as if they were, really the maximum value that they can. The clearly they recognize
19 years of WWE promoting this U.S. title, and now you know what? It's not a horrible idea to have a great secondary title. We used to be able to headline garden shows with the tag titles. I mean, my God.
It is one of the, I would say, maybe one of several, maybe to some people, benefits of having Roman Reigns basically, sequester both big championships onto only lone pay-per-views. They feel like bigger deals whenever he appears and defends them. And when they put effort into the other secondary championships, like they are with the IC in the US, it certainly elevates those champions and also those belts.
If you had the belts separate right now, do you think Austin Theory would be champion by now, or on the precipice of winning the other, the non-Roman?
Depends
title?
on who the other champion is, right? Because
I think there'd be a very high percentage that they would just put the belt on him, and I think that would honestly do more damage to him being the alternate champion to Roman Reigns at this time. Could you imagine him holding the other world title on Raw and Roman Reigns is on SmackDown? Like, what an indictment of where this guy is. It's
not really unprecedented to, in situations like these, whenever they've had two championships, to have one really weak champion and one that has had a lot more respect. Would Austin Theory be in a better place for it? All of it is in follow-up, isn't it? And even in the loss, we will talk about it. This was a very Austin Theory heavy episode.
He was the whole focus of the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Bobby Lashley comes out. He wants his title back. Rollins brings up the loss to Lesnar last week, and then Mustafa Ali rushes out with a referee. Lashley threatens to hurt Ali, who charges the ring and proceeds to get hurt. And Rollins just gets out of there. Lashley just deals with Ali, and the match gets set up as we come back from commercial break. Bobby Lashley, Mustafa Ali. And Lashley runs him into the post, launches this guy over the desk. He just flew. And then slams Ali in the ring. The referee's checking on Ali if he wants to continue. And then the chant that no babyface ever wants to hear as they're splattered on the mat. One more time. One more time. It was like, man, no sympathy for this guy. And Ali avoids a spear, hits a desperation tornado DDT, and then Lashley kills him with a spear. Hurt Lock is applied. 428. Bobby Lashley is the winner, but not representing anyone in the World Cup. Mustafa Ali, he's going to be going into this one injured.
I guess so, yeah.
I like Ricochet's chances on Friday.
I think I do too, yeah. I thought there was at least some effort made to show Ali's unwillingness to give up as a way to try to, give him something. after being embarrassed by Lashley last week and essentially this week. But by the end, I don't think it was nearly enough of Ali fighting back for him to overcome a feeling of irrelevance that I would say is attached to him right now. But we'll see. Maybe he'll keep coming back, John. Maybe they'll tell that story. They're trying to make Bobby Lashley a bigger heel right now, and having this sort of like scrappy underdog in Ali continue to try to pester him despite getting beaten up. I mean, it's one way they like to tell their stories for underdogs.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Bobby Lashley was just like, dominant heel monster here, and Ali just like flew around for this guy. So, I mean, for that objective of what they were trying to accomplish, like Bobby Lashley came across as just a beast in this match. Kathy Kelly is with the OC. Gallows takes credit for Mia Yim coming to join them because he's so good with the ladies. And AJ says it needs to end between him and Finn Balor. It's been going on since WrestleMania. And then Carl Anderson refers to Mia as Michin.
Sounds like. Or Michin. Yeah, Michin. Michin.
Yes. And Kathy Kelly goes, Michin? And Mia explains, it means crazy in Korean. And we got a mixture of Mia Yim and Michin throughout the show where it looks like they are slowly moving her over to this new name.
Well, I would say nickname, don't you think? Or do you think they're actually going to replace Michin?
Well, when they did, this felt like it's just a nickname. And then later they did an interview backstage and Belair and Kathy Kelly both referred to her as Michin. And that felt like, okay, we are permanently making this move. But then Graves, later in the night when she ran out, it was all Mia Yim. So we will see if this is a permanent move or just a nickname that goes with her. But yeah.
Cool.
I do not, this is one where this is the day off theory, okay? These four hanging out together, I don't imagine these four hanging out together. It is a weird fit, okay? I don't think AJ and Mia Yim would have 5 minutes of conversation if they were in the car together.
Hey, they're both gamers, aren't they? Are they both like, or at least AJ used to be on Twitch.
Which means they'd want to be by themselves on their Twitch and not talking to each other, probably.
Well, we know, they're really trying hard to tell us why Mia Yim likes these guys, and the association right now.
They drink. They drink.
To be alcohol.
That's
I
it.
could buy that. I mean,
okay.
But yeah, well, there are a lot of people you could get a drink with. I mean, would they like to hang out with each other? Maybe, I don't know. They are definitely trying, to show some association. And right now, it's just like, oh, you got beers. All right, let's be friends.
So Mia Yim took on Tamina. Ripley and Dominik were there. And then Damage Control backstage. And Kevin Patrick asks, who are they scouting? I'm sure they're scouting Tamina, Kevin. I'm sure that's who's on their radar right now. What threat does Tamina present to us? Not much of one, because the Samoan drop was avoided. And Michin hit Eat Defeat in 1:59 and is your winner.
Which they specifically called Eat Defeat, and it was Kevin Patrick.
Not soul food.
Yeah, it was Kevin Patrick specifically saying she calls that Eat the Feet, which historically she's called it soul food, and like soul as in the city. So it makes you wonder, like, are they? Did she simply want to pay tribute to Gail Kim by reverting the name of the move?
Kevin Patrick also referred to like a rack bomb later as A-Town Down. So, yeah. I mean, Kevin Patrick may have been also off.
But she also, but because Kevin Patrick said she calls that Eat Defeat, I would imagine he spoke to Michin before, to get that direction. I'm not sure.
Well, maybe she's crazy, okay? And she told him one thing, but calls it another.
That is quite the Michin thing to say. What are your thoughts on Kevin Patrick thus far? Several weeks, a month in at this point.
I think overall, the best I can say is that he's like inoffensive in the role. I don't think he's I wouldn't say he stands out in a positive way.
Yeah.
I still think this is a show that more now relies on Graves to sort of pick up certain spots. I mean, I think the guy is fairly well researched, but at the same time, like, you do see holes at times of, just certain, like calling moves and stuff like that, which in this version of WWE, there is a slight more of an emphasis on that than was previously.
Yeah, I'm pretty much aligned with those thoughts. I've yet to be impressed by him in any way. And you know what? Maybe, Paul Levesque is not looking for impressive. Maybe he's just looking for a guy to, do the job without necessarily getting noticed. But I do have a very strong feeling that there are probably better candidates even within their own system for a job like that. But it's still relatively early.
Ripley goes to enter the ring, but backs off. She's booed as they tease a confrontation with her and Mia Yim. Kathy interviews Matt Riddle with his bongos. And so they had initially announced Riddle and Elias against Otis and Gable. And then this afternoon changed it to Riddle against Gable. So there was no Elias on the show. So no explanation there.
Oh, no, Riddle explained. Riddle said he was off.
Riddle gave us an explanation that he's going to book a concert or something, but what the reason was that Elias wasn't on the show.
Couldn't have waited until after the show to book his concert. I mean, that's you have a job to do, don't you?
Well, with dynamic pricing, maybe they could make a hell of a killing if they start a band now and book some venues, although I don't know what the ticket demand would be for these two playing the bongos and the electric keyboard. Otis and Gable come in. They do the shoosh routine, and Riddle's responding with bro. Gable and Otis call Riddle a clown show, and that was that. There was too much Riddle on this show for me.
Oh man, I think he's more awful now than he's ever been in this WWE run. Like with RK,
because it felt like they were shelving all this, and now they've doubled down on it. They're going heavier than ever with this, and like he is becoming the R-Truth on this show. Like that is like Riddle's like vacuum now.
Yeah, very much so. I think as part of RK Bro, he was actually quite endearing. Especially as the weeks went on with that chemistry and the contrast between the two of them. It almost to me feels like they're making him purposely obnoxious, to the point where you want to boo him. But I mean, I might be giving him too much credit with that.
Mia Yim gets confronted by Damage Control, and they're impressed with her and state we know what it's like to be forgotten and cast aside, and wants Mia Yim to join their team at War Games. And Yim says she has no problem with Belair, Asuka, or Bliss, and she's going to think about it. And then the OC show up with beer. So they're off to drink beer because that's what they do. They drink beer.
Yes. In case you were wondering what they do when they're hanging out.
They drink beer. Matt Riddle
maybe it'll come out later on that Mia Yim just needed a job and doesn't like these guys at all. She had to kind of put up with like hanging out with them for weeks, just to get a spot on this show.
Dexter Lumis could have just been like drinking beers and stuff.
Yeah,
could have gotten back a lot quicker. As much as the negative I had to say about Matt Riddle, I thought his match with Chad Gable was very good. Gable goes after the knee, many dragon screws in this match, including one out of the corner. Riddle does this big comeback with the Broton knee strike. Bro Derek gets countered, and then it's Riddle getting caught in the ankle lock. He breaks out of it, leaps in the air, applying a triangle, and he is hoisted onto the shoulders of Gable and dumped off for a 2 count. Goes for the moonsault. Gable lands on his feet, and then draping DDT by Riddle, nails Otis from the apron, and then the American Automatic results in Riddle landing on his feet, and then Gable applies a backslide, putting his feet on the rope for leverage as Otis holds down his legs, and with the referee counting the pinfall, not seeing the interference, it is Gable pinning him in 9 minutes and 48 seconds. So, I guess such a clever finish, but nonetheless, I thought this was a very good match.
A very good TV match. Both guys so incredibly fluid and technically sound. I mean, they're both top level athletes. So I think you wouldn't expect anything less, when they're given time. It's a finish that seems to be setting up, Elias and Riddle versus Gable and Otis. So maybe
Mania night 1 or night 2.
Well, it depends if you got Steve Austin. I mean, we never, maybe that's the match. Maybe that's the Steve Austin match. Maybe put it a 3-way, okay, with him and
Ezekiel.
Otis and Ezekiel,
and Elias.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I'm just not looking forward to more of this Riddle comedy that we're undoubtedly going to keep getting with them and Gable.
Well, if there's something that they're really nailing in this regime, it's comedy. because we then went to the poker table. I have never like groaned more than just seeing a poker table. I had not even seen the individuals involved in this segment. It was like they zoomed out and there is JBL with Baron Corbin and another dude who they kick off the poker game. JBL turns down some Kentucky bourbon because that's where they are, because he's got some Ugandan Reserve Prime whiskey instead. When Akira Tozawa, if you remember him, he works here. He comes and he wants to play, and he's never played poker before and doesn't know the rules. So JBL accepts and lets him play. This is like when Uncle Phil goes to help bail out Will at the pool hall.
Yes.
And then throws the game, and then Jeffrey brings him his own cue.
Yes, I'm sure
One
that's
of the best
exactly what they
scenes.
were going for.
Phil just takes him to the cleaners.
Yeah.
Great episode.
I mean, I do think there's some sort of like I don't know, historical connection to JBL, of course, like from his APA days playing poker in the back. I would have loved to have seen the fake door here, but I mean, it was very much a heel type of action. I guess I applaud them for trying to come up with some reason to give us a storyline for this Baron Corbin Akira Tozawa match. And I'm happy to see Tozawa still have a job despite the loss of the 24/7 division.
Yeah, I mean that's a positive takeaway from all of this. MizTV is next. Miz comes out in a sweater, and he is
cardigan, John.
It's a cardigan.
Yeah.
He is shaking hands as he goes to the ring, and Byron Saxton has been given hosting duties of MizTV. Miz has prepared a statement regretting paying Dexter Lumis. He just wanted empathy. He has never been cheered for his 18 years in this company, rarely misses work, and Dexter kept taking and taking, so Miz had to stand up for himself and put an end to Lumis's greediness. So then Saxton asks, what about what you told the private investigator? And he said, this is actually great. He said, Hollywood doesn't want real. You have to spin the truth to make it more interesting, which, I mean, a mantra that this company would live by. Absolutely. And says that he was depressed all weekend in his room when Johnny Gargano is out, stating that he saw on Maurice's Instagram that they were in Cabo all weekend and knows Miz was not depressed. Then says to Miz, you always take the easy way. And Miz just screams, why would I take the hard way? And he calls him Mr. Rogers, but the difference is Mr. Rogers is a good guy who admits when he's wrong. And the question that every single person in the KFC Yum Center was asking, Gargano says, can we just move on? And Miz apologizes, and Gargano tells him to pay back Lumis. So this is no longer about this is just Lumis is owed an outstanding debt from the Miz, and he just wants to be paid off. So in 2 weeks at Survivor Series, Miz will face Dexter Lumis. If he loses, he has to pay what is owed, and Dexter Lumis gets a contract.
I could have sworn they already made that match.
They did, and then they did the knee injury to Miz, the fake injury, and never did the match that week.
Oh, okay.
But they did set this up about weeks ago.
Got it. I gotcha. Okay. Well, I am amazed at their ability to continue to drag this whole thing out. How long has it been? Like 2-3 months now with this Dexter Lumis Miz thing?
Dexter Lumis was on that show in Toronto that we went to, and that was August. It's November.
Wow. Amazing. All of this to see whether or not Dexter Lumis can get a contract. It's way more ambitious than I could have ever imagined, and I don't exactly know if the results were worth waiting for. I will say that I'm certainly pretty anti like this entire program, but there are occasional segments like tonight where I just thought the Miz was really hilarious.
Miz was pretty funny. He had some really good lines and playing off of Gargano. I mean, this was
coming out in the cardigan with his hair kind of like, I don't know, flattened down to supposedly look more like a baby face, slapping kids' hands, coming out with to me, great heel logic for a lot of the what's pretty, hard evidence against him at this point. I thought he was very good. It's actually Gargano and his whole sort of I don't know, kind of obnoxious whistleblowing shtick that I kind of find more annoying and unbearable. I think his insults are bad. What was his insult today? He said like he called him Mr. Rogers. Like is that honestly the best, you know, a cool babyface can come up with? I don't think he's come across this very well at all throughout all of this, and his association can't end quick enough.
The big moment at the end of the segment was Gargano telling Miz to tell Dexter to his face, and Dexter is dressed as the camera operator, revealing himself, and Miz runs away. So add that to Survivor Series with Dexter's life at stake. Kathy Kelly with Shelton Benjamin is asking Shelton about Austin Theory's cash-in. It's like, hey, can we book an interview with Shelton Benjamin? We need his perspective on Theory's cash-in. We need to book a camera operator. We need an editing system ready to go because we need Shelton's thoughts to air just on their own tonight. We're not expecting anyone to come interfere. No match will come out of this. We're just going to air one segment asking Shelton Benjamin his thoughts to run during Raw.
I mean, I think, you know, a prior Money in the Bank cash-in.
This guy never won Money in the Bank, did he?
No, he's competed in it, but I don't think he's ever won Money in the Bank.
He has no relevancy to a cash-in, a failed one, a successful one, none. He's been in the match to determine who gets to do that opportunity.
And he has zero association with Austin Theory, so yeah,
I would have loved if this just aired cold, like just on the show earlier today. Back to our next match, and we just had this like 10-minute gap of the show where we didn't book a match, so we don't have enough to fill here. But amazing, Dominik and Damian Priest interrupt, and we never get Shelton's full thoughts on Austin Theory's failed cash-in. And Dominik says that Shelton knows all about being a failure. You've been a failure since my deadbeat dad and Eddie Guerrero were in their primes. And then he hides behind Damian Priest, and he's just playing the coward, repeating everything Damian Priest says. And then Shelton says he accepts Dominik's challenge, and this constitutes acceptance of a match. Dominik was forced into this with a verbal contract, I guess.
If it's caught on camera, I think that's as good as a signed contract.
So Dominik and Shelton Benjamin, this gave ample opportunity in Louisville for Kevin Patrick to remind us that Shelton Benjamin was in OVW over 20 years ago. Dominik slaps him at the beginning, and then it's Benjamin overpowering him. Dominik is begging off. He's begging for mercy, and then catches Shelton, snapping his neck on the top rope, and Dominik is on the attack. Goes for a 619, is caught with a power slam, step-up knee, exploder, ankle lock, and then Ripley distracts. Priest gets Dominik to the rope while he's in the ankle lock, and then Priest distracts as Dominik sends Shelton into the post with his shoulder. This spot I have complained about in the past. On tonight's show, I think there were like 8 shoulders that were thrown into posts over time. And then with the post shot, Dominik hits a DDT and the frog splash, pinning Shelton Benjamin in 4:58.
Yes, that is right. Yeah. I mean, really a showcase match for Dominik Mysterio here. Really, to me, still trying to get comfortable in his new role as a heel, and I think he's progressing like relatively well, in my opinion. Like still a far cry, I would say, from like what you would consider somebody who's a seasoned performer. But he's brand new to this, and I think it couldn't be more obvious that he's being directed to channel Eddie in this heel run, both in terms of moveset and also his taunts, you know, like begging as he's backing off in the corner. Of course, all the, you know, continuous bringing up of Eddie, but this time as a way to get heat, you know, before delivering the frog splash and whatnot. But at least in terms of, I think, charisma, certainly you can't find a worse, you know, you can't find a better, I should say, a role model than somebody like Eddie Guerrero. And I find it interesting how like he's got in his 2 dads, you know, 2 of the best examples you can have in a baby face in Ray and in the heel as Eddie. So I think he's doing the role relatively well. And at this point, it almost seems like they're just letting him, you know, grow his wings here on Raw while Rey Mysterio, you know, does his thing on SmackDown, and then eventually they might meet back up again.
I'm now picturing Dominik having wings when he comes down to the ring like Athena.
Yeah.
Could be a new look for him.
Okay, he could do that. That'd be cool.
So, the next segment. Kathy has an exclusive with Austin Theory, the man himself.
Mm-hmm.
So be like, hey, you've got Austin Theory tonight for a live interview. Well, we still got to get Shelton Benjamin. We've still got to figure out what he thought. I mean, you've literally got the person booked for an interview.
Well, listen, I mean, you need to get wraparound coverage. That's only one perspective, right? You need the other side as well. And I suppose Shelton was, the best they could get.
Theory says that no one understands him or the pressure he's under. They don't know his full story. He was touted to be the next big thing, and he exceeded those expectations. He became the face of the franchise, and people still hate on him because they can't relate to him. People want to see me fail and fall short, but it's not going to happen. I didn't fall last week. I feel more alive than ever. The briefcase was an anchor for me. Very true. And Roman Reigns was unstoppable. Every chance I took, there was somebody there. Brock Lesnar was at SummerSlam. Tyson Fury was at Clash at the Castle. Plus, he's got all of the Bloodline members. It didn't make sense to keep going after Roman Reigns. So I went for one of the greatest champions of this generation, and Bobby Lashley cost me. And before we get into the Dolph Ziggler portion of this, I thought this was a very good promo from Austin Theory. They tried the best to explain the... He didn't quite go as far as to explain why he cashed in during an open challenge, but he at least tried to explain why he went for the United States Championship, which was tough to explain. But I thought overall, like, this was a really good promo from Austin Theory.
I'd go as far as to say, like, to me, like, one of his best, if not, because I don't remember many Austin Theory promos. Yeah, let's be honest here, but this to me was probably the most important one of his entire career, more so than the one he cut after winning Money in the Bank, more so really than any of them, because this is a promo coming off of the most embarrassing moment of his on-screen career, cashing in and failing for a secondary championship. So this was incredibly important for him to knock it out of the park, and for the content in this promo to logically explain why he did what he did. That was the biggest question I had coming out of last week. If you have the Money in the Bank, why would you go for a secondary title? And I thought he did such a great job of explaining logically why he did not cash in on Roman Reigns. There's a high level of honesty in his answer that made me be like, okay, I get it. It's Roman Reigns. It's not like Austin Theory didn't try. Like he said, he's tried multiple times, and every time there was somebody there, whether it be Tyson Fury or Brock Lesnar. And beyond that, Roman is rarely here anyway, and he's got the bloodline around him whenever he's there. So all of that is incredibly logically sound. And I just, it's the type of detail that I don't really expect from WWE. Like whenever they have, a heel fail or even a baby face fail, usually you just kind of walk away and you forget that it ever happened. And that would have been the worst thing that he could have done. They could have done for him. But instead, he had a great explanation. And he came out with this promo with a ton of fire and a ton of aggression, the way anybody would after being embarrassed publicly on TV. He's really, and they are really using this rather than, just, I think, a cause to, a reason for somebody to hate Austin Theory. They're telling him to bottle all of those emotions, some of which I'm sure are very real, of him being taken this, prime role away from him that was given to him by Vince, taken away by Hunter, and putting it into this promo and his performance later on tonight where he's really pissed off and he has something to prove. And I thought he really knocked it out of the park. Imagine if Kofi Kingston, John, even tried to cut a promo like this after losing the championship to Brock Lesnar. That's all I've wanted, following that. And it was finally refreshing to see somebody suffer a big loss and actually, give me a compelling promo to build off of that loss.
Yeah, I know you're not watching it, but this was actually like the storyline of Young Rock on Friday, where
Money in the Bank and Young Rock?
Not exactly, but it's where he's Rocky Maivia and his career is just floundering as a babyface. The audience is turning on him. It's not like exactly the same, but you get the point. He suffers a knee injury and he knows his career is just like totally spinning out of control. And they decide they're going to bring him back to TV. We're turning you. And he begs to get any kind of promo time because he says, I'm not genuine. And so he gets 2 minutes to do a promo and he goes out there and he delivers like a great promo. And that was like what the whole show is basically based around, is that like he was just inauthentic and then had to pretty much hit it out of the park with a promo to sound like just to have some kind of personality that's real.
See, that sells me on the show way better than what you were trying to explain before.
Well, I mean, the coffee shortage is a real storyline, and that's actually the cliffhanger at the end. Ziggler walks in, calling it the worst cash-in ever, and he tried to help Austin Theory several months ago, but your ego's too big and you didn't want to listen, and says that Theory says, I'm done being the youngest anything or anyone's protege. I'm the now, and I will prove it against you tonight. Dolph Ziggler, Austin Theory in Louisville at the KFC Yum Center.
The man is in need of a rehab match, and I think Dolph is sort of, I mean, that's his place. And when you need a dependable guy for somebody to beat, to guarantee almost a good match, I mean, Dolph is that guy.
They explained the rules for War Games. They went over. So it will be 5-on-5 with the first two starting, and then 5 minutes until the next entrant comes in. And then every 3 minutes, a new person enters. Once they're all in, War Games begins, and you win by pin or submission. So pretty standard fare.
Pretty classic rules, right?
Do we have blood? Is there blood in?
Yes, I think so. On pay-per-view, I mean, at this point, WWE, I don't really get the sense that they're shying away too much, right? Like, they've done fake blood.
Yeah. I think at the very least you have fake blood. Like, I think they want to have that visual for like the first main roster War Games.
But you know what? Actually, maybe I take it back, because Hunter was specifically asked this question, and he said something to the effect of how it's not necessary or it's antiquated or something. So maybe they don't, because in the
I don't think that is gospel either.
Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, I just look at Hunter and it's like, dude, that was a guy. And granted, people's philosophies change, but that was a guy that used blood as much as anyone during his run. I think he saw it as a very effective tool. And I mean, maybe we don't, but I wonder.
It is a very different company, though, and he's in a role now that is also very different from just simply being, a wrestler on the roster. He is a lot more, like, he has advertisers to speak to, So I don't. We'll see.
Tribute to the Troops, they announced for December 17th, and it's already been taped. They did that Friday in Indianapolis. IYO SKY against Dana Brooke. Dana Brooke, who they noted was the fighting 24/7 champion, a fighting champion. And I mean, they referred to the trash can thing, but I mean, that was as much of a write-off as anything. Like, there's no story coming out of that. There's no follow-up. That title's done.
I'm glad they didn't try to do anything like, redo the blown spot, like of her actually like getting into the trash bin or something. Like, just, it's retired. Whether or not it went to the garbage, it's done.
So Dana is pissed about the title being thrown in the trash can, stating it was painful and she will not go down tonight without a fight. So they had a fight for 3 minutes and 19 seconds. Dana went for a handspring cartwheel, was caught by Sky, who hit her with a released German, double knees in the corner, over the moonsault in 3 minutes and 19 seconds. I thought it was, for 3 minutes, it was a decent little TV match where IYO SKY got to do more than, you don't get to see too many singles matches with her, at least not in this incarnation. So it was fine.
It was fine. I mean, what stood out to me was just how cold the crowd was. And
dude, it was a lot on this show. Like, it was a crowd that was, there were parts where they were just ice cold at points, and this was one of them.
And I mean, they very much, I think, are a crowd that reacts to star power. And Dana hasn't been seen in months, it feels like, and when she has been seen, it's not really anything significant. And IYO is still a relative newcomer for the audience, so this probably didn't connect as much as maybe they were hoping.
So with Damage Control celebrating the win, Mia Yim comes out and she has an answer. She has chosen her side for War Games, and she's with Belair, Asuka, and Bliss. So we have 4 members now, and a new member to come. Well, we can talk about it now. Rhea Ripley joins Damage Control, so they have their 5, leaving 1 spot open now on the babyface side for the women.
Yeah, of course, the biggest question of significance coming out of this is, how does this affect the potential rumor of, or at least the potential expectation, we should say, of Sasha and Naomi making their way back. With 2 empty slots, I think it made a lot more people guess that it would be those 2 taking up these spots. This, of course, is not ruled out that possibility. I mean, we've had War Games matches booked by Triple H where people just get taken out mid-match and only to be replaced by somebody else. It's still a possibility. But that fifth spot, I think, will be really interesting. And might finally kind of, settle whether or not to be the both of them, or maybe just one of them, or none of them. John, are you leading towards any direction coming off of tonight?
Well, I would say if they had left the 2 spots open, I think like you're just screaming that that's the only option you can deliver for people. So I think if you fill up these spots, it's kind of like the company is not teasing anything that they can't claim like they're misdirecting you in that sense. There's also the idea that if they're showing up on the show, do you also have them do their first match back unannounced? Like just showing up there is going to be big enough. Like you could have Damage Control win, and then at the end they come out, place goes nuts, and tune into Raw the next night or something like that. And you save their match and build it up for something. There's many ways you can go about it, but the fact that they are, and to your point, they can also do the idea where, someone gets taken out.
I think because it's a pay-per-view, I mean, PLE, I should say, which, for maybe us doesn't mean that much, but for the people that are paying higher ticket prices, certainly means something. I think for that reason, I would feel more of a responsibility, I should say, to have a Sasha or a Naomi actually get physically involved rather than just show up, for a run-in at the end.
But they're not advertising it. It's not like they're not even hinting at it. So I can't really claim that they're, misleading in any way here. Because there's been no one buying a ticket can leave unsatisfied if those two aren't there based on what they've done so far.
But those chants will be there,
probably.
If they're not planning on having them show up, then they're gonna have to come up with a way to shut that down, pretty, definitively. So, yeah, we'll see.
Tozawa is winning at poker, and then Corbin tries to cheat, and he is called out by Tozawa, and this sets up a match, as most poker games descend into.
That's why I stopped playing.
Oh, well, did you ever cheat at poker?
No, of course not.
This was not the best plan. I don't know how this would have worked on most card sharks. I mean,
his
just take my word for it. I've got 4 aces, and don't look at the cards. I mean, this was where did you learn this trick?
How did he score so big in Vegas for his fortune, Corbin? He's not a very good cheater.
Yeah, I'm sure he wasn't on the crypto market, so I mean, he must have actually won the money. Austin Theory against Dolph Ziggler. This match begins, and dude, this crowd could not be less interested in this. And these two, by the time this match ended, they woke this crowd up. This was quite the task that they had. We have Austin Theory hitting the aforementioned rack bomb that Kevin Patrick calls an A-Town down. Then he goes for the A-Town down, and that's when he says, oh, now he's going for it. And Ziggler counters that with a sleeper, takes Theory down, and then eventually breaks out of it. There's a famouser on Theory for a 2 count, and the crowd reacts to that. Ziggler gets run into the post once, then he gets run into the post a second time, and then Ziggler reverses a third one, sends Austin Theory into the post shoulder first, and hits a zigzag, and this crowd loses it. They thought for sure Dolph Ziggler is beating Austin Theory. Theory comes back, A-Town down, but he won't go for the cover. Instead, he hits a second one, then delivers strikes on top, sends Ziggler into the steps, rams him into the desk, and the match is thrown out 14 minutes and 39 seconds as the officials come down to try and pull Theory away. 9 times out of 10, when a match goes this long and they do kind of the non-finish, it feels like it's just a way out. I felt there was a storyline reason for this with what you were doing with Austin Theory, that a pinfall doesn't really accentuate it as much as this. So I actually had no issue with this. And I cannot tell you, it just sounded like this crowd had no interest in this. And they were able with those near falls to get them to react. And it worked. They started from nothing and got this into I wouldn't put this at the Riddle Gable level, but it wasn't far behind it. It was a very nice match for television. I mean,
it's a testament to the talent of a utility player like Dolph Ziggler, who just straight off the bench, you need a great match, just call on him. one promo is all he needs, and you leave it, the rest of it, just kind of give him that ring time, and he's able to pull out a great performance out of an Austin Theory who, again, really needed tonight to be a home run for him because they were, risking so much embarrassment coming off of the failed cash in last week. Not only did he have to cut a killer promo, he had to have a great match, and he did. He did a tremendous job here. I think the beatdown afterwards also needed to be incredibly impressive and aggressive. And I thought they really managed both of them. He had a great match, and he, conveyed different aggression. I'll say, like, I feel the body of his like moveset still looks to me a bit basic and soft. I'd really like to see a bit more evolution there. Like during the beatdowns is when I feel his aggression was really there. I think this sort of like look that he gives when he's like snapped is really strong as well. I really want him to like come up with a different finisher that might not be the rack bomb. I mean, something that is a lot more devious, something like the stomp, something that's just like kind of like deadly and evil to kind of like match this new character that he's got. But I would say tonight was a really good rehab day for him. And in fact, I like, can we look at that failed cash in as like maybe his version of like, Okada crying at like Wrestle Kingdom 9, after failing to beat Tanahashi? Like, are we talking about a long-term story here where like Austin Theory, after failing the cash in, ascends, comes back more driven than ever, and then we can look back at this, failed cash in as something he'll always want to avenge?
So for the YouTube video, we'll take this conversation, and the title is going to be, is Austin Theory becoming Kazuchika Okada?
Oh, fuck. Oh, Jesus.
Says Wai Ting.
What I've learned is that most people simply comment not even watching the video, or at least maybe watching the first 2 minutes of the video, okay, and then not watching the rest and not getting the context of the video. So I don't know if I want to risk all those thumbs down comments, but I mean, whatever.
Did you get to see any of Bobby Fish's boxing debut over the weekend?
I did. Yes, I did.
He almost delivered a Northern Lights during the fight. He lifted the guy up, and it was almost like it was just like natural for him to, in that position, to like hoist the guy over. And you had the announcers, whoa, 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 whoa. So yeah, Bobby, I mean, he was not taking on the world's most dangerous boxer here. I think this guy was like 0-2 as a professional. Look at he like lifted him up.
Yeah, what the fuck was this?
He was like,
maybe it's just instinctive.
He's like arching the back like he was going to complete the suplex. So Bobby Fish won at the age of 46. But the highlight, and it was not the main event, which I did not watch, but it was rather guest commentator Sammy Guevara, and he addresses the crowd. He's like, "Hey, Dubai, you want to see me box?" Dude, crickets. It was like painful. And then he did it a second time. He asked him a second time, and nothing. Dude, it was amazing.
Yeah, that was, I would say, maybe
his asking price just went down after that exhibition, after that survey.
Hey man, like if we're to draw any sort of real conversation coming out of it, I mean, does it tell you maybe how much crossover there is with somebody in the AEW mid card like a Sammy Guevara?
Well, this audience obviously was not exciting to them at the prospect of Sammy Guevara fighting for them. I don't know what Bobby Fish made for this, but like, he's going over to Dubai. It's like, I'm sure he was not doing this for nothing. You know what I mean? And I can't imagine too many people being that intrigued to see Bobby Fish box. But that tells you like the people putting this together obviously feel that this level of wrestler has some appeal to them. If they're interested in Sammy Guevara fighting for them and they're paying for Bobby Fish to come over and box.
I guess so. Yeah.
So it's a bizarre combat sports environment that we are in at the moment.
Maybe slap fighting is where he could show up next.
Oh, okay. Maybe that can be Sammy Guevara, Andrade at the next pay-per-view.
Wow.
Power slap.
You went there. Interesting. Okay. And CM Punk and Bobby Fish.
Okay, yeah, okay. You could build a whole card out of this. This could
Absolutely.
End up on Fight Pass, I'm sure. Look at this. It's wild. Baron Corbin against Akira Tozawa. Tozawa was screaming cheater at JBL, which wasn't Corbin the cheater in the game?
I mean, they were both cheating, cooperatively cheating.
Is JBL just guilty by association? I mean, he might have been playing honorably.
I think JBL was covering for Corbin. I think he's just as guilty.
Tozawa hit a crazy suicide dive, then goes for another, and Corbin sends him into the barricade. There's a pop-up into a Rana by Tozawa. He hits a Shining Wizard and then gets caught coming off the top into End of Days in 3 minutes and 34 seconds. This is the most athletic match I've seen Akira Tozawa in on Raw in years.
Yeah, this was the first sort of like serious match he's had ever since like debuting this 24/7 Ninja thing. So in that sense, it was kind of refreshing, but ultimately it was just a showcase for Baron Corbin here in 4 minutes time. So I don't know. What do you see for Akira Tozawa?
Nothing.
I hope he just drops the ninja getup. What's up with this thing? Like, why is he still holding on to it? I mean, clearly, like, he's got a personality. Like, he's kind of funny in these sort of backstage environments. But man, like, does it fit the current like Paul Levesque WWE? I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? This doesn't fit anything. This is like,
well, it's also got Dexter Lumis and like all this other shit. So maybe there's a role.
They recap the I Quit match where Edge quit when the Judgment Day threatened Beth Phoenix and then delivered the concerto, which is probably a good update. Like, it's been like 5 weeks since they did this angle just to show it and remind people about this, because this was a big angle when they did it, but it hasn't been referenced. Like Ripley wore that armband the next night, but there's been no reference to it since. So this would suggest that they're probably ready to reintroduce this.
We've also got somebody in the chat room here. South Newton suggests it will be Becky, Candice, or maybe Beth for War Games, we should say. And we never really considered Beth. Could she be the fifth person to oppose the heel side, including Rhea Ripley at War Games?
Yeah, you could.
Does it take away from the media?
I wouldn't want to go to the match already with. I mean, yeah, you can do Beth and Rhea at a future date, but I think you build up to that. I don't know. I don't like the idea of her just coming back as a surprise. But they aired this tonight, so you have to throw that option out there.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Kathy Kelly is with Bianca Belair, Asuka, Alexa, and Michin, and one member from each team will face off next week to determine who has the numbers advantage at War Games. That's the message. Then Gable and Otis walk in to brag about their win over Riddle, and Rollins strolls by humming Shush.
Yeah, I thought they were like building up to something, but I think this was just one of their ways of like blending the segments together because Rollins was on his way out for his match.
Yeah. Belair, Asuka, and Bliss, they really had quite the night. Pretty taxing.
What do you mean?
I mean, they basically, like, Bliss and Asuka just like walked on screen. They never talked. They were just like there as bodies, as stand-ins for these segments. Like, that was their role all night long.
Well, I guess in a War Games team, I mean, does it, nobody, maybe they're just, there for some moral support. Maybe they did some WWE.com interviews. I don't know. Not sure.
Okay, well,
you can't have a speaking role for every single person.
I'm just saying, like, they were just there. It was just like, it was a very like,
you're gonna have days like that, I guess.
And then Balor is with Saxton. He accepts AJ Styles' challenge for the Survivor Series. So just a singles match that they're doing between the OC and the Judgment Day after introducing all the like these numbers and stuff, and we're going to two singles, a singles match and the women in the War Games.
That's Survivor Series, but they'll all be ringside. Like at least they're on the graphic, except maybe for the women because they're in the War Games match. But I'm sure that you'll be getting your big intergender mix up or trios match later on.
Seth Rollins and Finn Balor, U.S. title in the final match of the night. They went over 21 minutes. Some of the highlights here, Balor lifted up Rollins for the powerbomb into the barricade, which was the SummerSlam spot the other way around that Balor took, which led to his injury. The coup de grace then misses, and then Rollins tries for a stomp. A pedigree gets blocked, and it ends with a sit-out powerbomb by Rollins. He goes for the Phoenix Splash, doesn't connect, and Balor catches him with the shotgun dropkick and a 1916. The Judgment Day make their way down, but they are followed by the OC and Mia Yim as Corey Graves yells. And Yim starts fighting with Rhea Ripley. Priest pounces Anderson onto the desk, and then AJ appears, shoving Balor off the top, stopping coup de grace, and the stomp is delivered, and Rollins wins in 21 minutes and 10 seconds. After the match, Austin Theory returns once again, jumping Rollins, 2 A-Town downs, and then a belt shot as the show goes off the air with Austin Theory holding up the United States title, the most prestigious title outside of Roman Reigns' belt, which is unattainable.
Listen, you tell us that long enough, and I think the audience will start to believe it. You know, I
you
love
need
the
to be
fact.
doing that. You're starting from a place where the audience doesn't take this belt as seriously, and they've put it on a serious guy, and and it's not going to happen overnight. You've got to condition people. I like just the idea of like the whole show was building to the U.S. title match, and they've done that several times now. It's going to take a lot of work when you've had 2 decades of this title feeling like it's mid-card nothing. It's going to take a long time for people to value this title as something meaningful.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, they're doing the same on SmackDown by having an entire tournament dedicated to finding Gunther's next challenger. And I think with the champion as strong as Gunther and the matches that he's been having, they're certainly maybe even a bit more, along the path than they are on Raw. But I mean, it's Seth Rollins. You really cannot find a better person to, build a division essentially and a championship around than that guy. So, beyond Rollins, I mean, great match, first of all, really good TV main event, had a sort of almost special pay-per-view feel to it because of how top tier Balor and Rollins are, and the combination of the two of them, like historically, with the two of them really being mirror images. I think, you don't expect anything less than the best, when it comes to those matches. The ending kind of puts all your pieces into place, setting up Balor versus AJ and also OC versus JD. But then Austin Theory to close the show. Again, this was very much a show centered around making sure that he's not a joke, by the end of tonight. All the people maybe laughing at him, making fun of him, calling him, the worst cash-in of all time last week. This was really a show made to try to solve all that by having him be ultra serious, a lot more serious than we've ever seen him. And I think they did a really great job. So it could, are they doing a good enough job with, Theory here that you could see a title change? Would it be too soon for a title change here, John? What do you think?
I think it would. I really like Rollins in this role. He's only just got the belt. So that would be my only question coming out of this, is putting Theory in a position where you're either, you almost are backed into a corner where this guy failing again. I really don't like that. I think at that point, it's like you get this chance that he hits rock bottom and then comes out as a renewed character. And if his first step is another failure, I think you're almost in a corner where you've got to do a title change at that point, or you really risk just this guy, in theory, being sort of divested in.
Agreed. I feel like Seth is just like even barely started in this babyface run and is sort of like, the brand champion with the US championship that I hope he gets a really long run with it. So I'm also a little surprised they're going to Austin Theory so soon. And because, I don't know. I don't think Austin Theory can afford another loss. So like, where do you go in that scenario?
Yeah. I mean, I think outside of just they have like such a killer match that he gets over and losing, like that would be your best bet. And you're paired with the guy that can get that out of you. So, there's ways around it, but I really like Seth in this role and it's just started. So, that would be my preference.
Is that a Survivor Series match, or do you think they keep that on Raw?
I mean, I would think you would expect this to be on Survivor Series,
Gunther
but
feels like a pretty much like SmackDown exclusive sort of like defender, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I guess I would imagine it on Survivor Series, but they've also like saved some of these, secondary title matches for television as well. So they could do it that way too. I would say tonight's Raw, I would say I like what they did with Austin Theory throughout the show. That was a pleasant surprise that they had on the show.
The next Okada.
It's the Rainmaker is here. I thought between the main event, Riddle and Gable, and then the Theory Ziggler match, I thought those were 3 quality matches that you got on the show. There was a lot of filler on this show too, and some matches that were total throwaway. But again, a good 90-minute show stretched into 3 hours.
As is usually the case, when it comes to a show that's this long. Yeah, the Tozawa Corbin thing to me felt really pointless, other than to maybe drag the show out a little bit longer. You're going to get a lot of that. And, for the most part, Raw had a lot of matches that were relatively inconsequential, but I mean, were good in ring, which is probably the most we can expect from a 3-hour show with so much to build to. To me, the big takeaway was the Austin Theory stuff. I think they continue to do a great job with pushing Seth Rollins as, a brand champion. And The Miz was kind of funny in his storyline that I hope ends very soon.
Well, we know the end's coming, so maybe that's we're bumping that up maybe more than it deserves. So there you have it. The KFC Yum Center got to see a classic tonight.
Was it Yum?
No, it wasn't Yum. It wasn't. It was the double down. That's what it was. Yeah,
it was a double down.
It's a bad choice, and you'll pay for it later. But you're not thinking long term.
All right. Okay. Let's go to some super chats here in our feedback section. Again, if you're watching us live, if you want to support the channel and get your thoughts heard immediately after we're done our reviews, you can always send us a super chant. A super chant. What would that sound like? What's a super chant?
What about
This was awesome.
Which they did get, and Kevin Patrick confirmed this is awesome.
Yes. All right. Let's go first to Jake from the Windy City, who sends $2 to say, looks like we found our worst promotion of 2022. He sent this during our NWA conversation. If you had to pick right now, would they be a candidate? would they be the choice?
I think a lot of people would be voting for the NWA. I'll tell you, when it comes to worst promotion, I think it's hard because there's a lot of great stuff. Even if you're not there's not too many companies where it's they're just totally.
I don't know if this qualifies, but I mean, as bad as I feel like the NWA sounds right now, at least the shows are going through, which is more than I can say for the Authors of Pain, whatever they were trying to put on.
Oh, the one-off show that never happened. Yeah, I mean, that on a business level was a disaster. So you're right. The NWA is ahead there. A lot of negative sentiment, and probably some of it. I mean, it's, especially for audiences that paid for the show, and it just seems like there has been negativity coming out of the last 2 pay-per-views, and it's also so public right now of this kind of disagreement of the direction of this company and where it's going, of Billy Corgan versus Nick Aldis, and it's not even theoretical. We got to see sort of Nick Aldis's what his preferred vision was, which, to be fair, Corgan was involved from the get-go with all of that. But that was at a time when the NWA was starting to at least gain some following. They were not going to be, number 2 in this country, but it seemed as though they were, the stuff with Cody that they did, it was at a time where it was gaining some traction.
Certainly. Yeah. Honestly, though, at this point, it's never seemed to me like it was any sort of I mean, I have no idea about this, but I do wonder if the company is turning any sort of profit, or if
I don't know how they could be, way what?
Yeah,
where are these? Where is that revenue?
Exactly. And so if you're Billy Corgan, what's keeping you from keeping this thing alive?
It's a passion project. I mean, that's what this is. And, God bless it. People are getting paid to do these shows, and it's more work for people. And if you're Billy Corgan and you're looking at it, and this is, in his belief, perhaps he felt like there was only a ceiling of the way we were doing things, and he's going to try different things to find an audience out there rather than just blend in with everyone else where we can't compete at that level. We don't. For whatever reason, they don't feel that they can. But I just think you're going about it in a way that to me, it's a promotion that does not have its finger on the pulse of the audience. And it seems as though the most ardent fans Well, this is the audience to me that would be the base that would be willing to watch your product. And you're stating we're not interested in just regular wrestling fans. We want non-fans. We want people that, let's be honest, they're never going to find us. And it's just, it's something that it's not exclusive to Billy Corgan, but it's something I hear so much about finding these casual fans that it's like, we want to aim a product at people that are never going to watch this. It would be like, you know, pick your franchise, okay? Star Wars, okay? It would be like somebody trying to cater Star Wars for me and not thinking of you, Way. Like, I'm not going to watch it no matter what
will it
you
take
do.
for you to watch Star Wars?
I don't know. Like, Yoda is Max Verstappen, okay? I don't know. like maybe I'm going to go tell somebody about this, and someone's like, dude, my cousin John Pollock was talking about this. Like, people are talking about Max Verstappen being cast as Yoda. This is big. Like, we're all in the bubble. Like, my cousin's heard about this, and I might watch it because it's so stupid, but I'm never going to be a fan of this. I'm never going to invest in this franchise. I'm never going to watch all the movies. I'm going to watch it at most out of a borderline curiosity that I have no investment in and I will never think of once I'm done it. And it just seems like there's an obsession to find like people that have really no interest in wrestling, but it's this elusive goal of ours to reach this unreachable audience that are not fans, and to do it to such an extent that we are just like actively working against the audience that is most receptible to spend money on wrestling. Like, that's not of interest to us.
I think if you ask most F1 fans, they'd say Max turned to the dark side this past weekend.
I know. I did not see the race, but I did see all the fallout afterwards. I mean, my God, this is
I love the controversy. I'm really looking forward to next season of Drive to Survive. I mean, so for people who essentially missed it, in a nutshell, you know, F1 has 2 drivers per team, and oftentimes the driver that is sort of leading the overall rankings will be favored to win a race, even if, you know, 2 cars are side by side, even if the other person is ahead. So they call it driver's orders. And this week it was sort of like driver's orders for Max Verstappen to give the spot to his teammate Checo, because Checo was trying to aim for number 2. Max had already won the championship, and Max denied driver's orders. And it goes a lot deeper than that. You know, Max seemingly suggesting that it's a retaliation for something that Checo did in the past, but nonetheless, like, just one of several stories coming off of this past weekend, which was drama filled and very exciting race.
Would you let me pass at the end if you had already locked up the championship?
Well, it depends if you intentionally crashed your car in Monaco. If I thought that,
what if I accidentally did, but you think it was intentional?
I would let you have 5th place, John. Yeah.
I mean,
6th.
The guy is like untouchable. Like, it's
I know. He's already won.
Yeah,
it's petty.
Just seems very petty.
All right. Let's go to Rob McDonald, who sends a $2 super chat. Thank you so much for the support, Rob. He says Austin versus Randy Orton would be his choice if Steve Austin were to come back at WrestleMania. Is that a viability for you?
Could I see them making that match? Yes. Would it be at the top of my list? No.
Yeah, in terms of mainstream appeal, like, a lot of people know who Randy Orton is. He's the RKO guy. He's popular enough, and I think, like, he's safe enough for Austin. Is he going to get Austin to that level of match that I think he's looking for? You know, like, did The Undertaker ever choose Randy Orton? He chose AJ Styles, you know, to have his last match with, and I don't know if I see that. I don't know if I see Austin picking him. But I guess, you know, Stunner versus RKO would be, like, you know, quite the way to build it.
They'll get Phil on the phone.
Huh? Who?
Call up old Cupcake Phil.
Oh, that would be a dream match. Yeah, absolutely. Cupcake Phil. Yeah. PM train.
How would that go if they said, okay, you can come back, you get to work Austin, you headline WrestleMania, and then you got to do Saudi Arabia. That's the deal, Punk.
Fuck. I think he'd say no. I mean, I don't know, dude. At this point, it's hard for me to say, like, what CM Punk would or wouldn't do. But God, that would be quite the match. But yeah, I don't see them throwing CM Punk that bone. I think Punk coming back alone, like eventually, if that were to ever happen, would be a big enough attraction. Anyway,
He might physically not be able by that point. Like maybe.
Oh yeah. Let's stop the speculation right there. Let's not get anybody's hopes up here. But it could happen. Sure. We got a PM Train who sends $2 to say the Power Slap report coming soon. Will you be covering Power Slap, or will anybody on the site be?
No. Probably not. I will watch the first episode. I want to see like the first episode, but dedicating coverage to it, no, I cannot fathom.
I think we'll probably get a bantery conversation like you got today.
Yeah. I like part of it is like I don't even know if there's going to be like, do you think like for the first week there will be attention? I think by default, all the MMA sites are going to cover this stuff.
We're talking about this way more than I ever expected, and for that reason, I feel like other people might be as well. Like if it's a disaster, people will be talking about it.
Well, there's once they announce TBS, it's like it very much it becomes a potential like AEW like tie-in as well.
Oh, for sure. So I guarantee you there'll be synergy. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, if it works, it obviously tells you like what kind of stuff TBS is also looking for. Like if this is
who's the first AEW wrestler to show up in Power Slap? I mean, we were joking about Sammy, but like, can you see that happening?
Kenta.
Who?
Kenta comes over.
Oh, okay. He's quite the slapper. Can he take it though?
Yeah, I wouldn't want him to be taking
who would do well in Power
damage
Slap
to the head
in AEW.
In AEW,
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that.
It's gonna be one that comes to mind. All right, let's keep going.
Okay, all right. Finally, we got a Timu who sends €5 just to say, if you got everything ever you wanted, would you ever give that back? No, nothing.
Sorry,
it's Uncle Cracker, dude.
Oh,
or my attempt. He says,
How did you figure that out? I would not have like put that together with this quote. I would have read this as like a serious question and not had an answer.
That line is just driven into the depths of my soul. Timu says, happy 5, wanted to celebrate it with a classic meme from the past. Thank you, Timu. Worked on me.
He did actually call it out there. So thank you very much, Timu. All right, Muggin writes in. Louisville had considerably more life than Wilkes-Barre last week. A solid show that moved War Games forward with the women's 5-on-5 getting 2 additions in Ripley and Mia Yim. Okay, this is just kind of recapping the show. Austin Theory got some image rehab and it could go well for him. Rollins and Balor never have a bad match together, and flipping their alignments freshened it up. With Owens suffering an MCL sprain over the weekend, I think Seth being in the War Games match isn't the worst idea. It'll heighten the drama with him and Roman in the same match. The Wyatt 6 logo flashed on screen twice when Alexa was doing a backstage bit at Crown Jewel and on Raw the following night. I bet she'll get removed somehow, and it could lead to either Candice or Becky taking her spot. Alexa would seem like that is an easy way to remove her if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And probably a decent possibility of that happening.
I just know that in Boston, like, this crowd will be cheering huge for both Sasha and Naomi. I mean, it's predominantly Sasha. So they're going to have to come up with some way to like make sure definitively they aren't going, like, to tell people that they're definitively not showing up. Or maybe not. Maybe they won't. Maybe they won't cheer. I don't know. Okay.
I mean, they did do a pay-per-view last year built around The Rock's anniversary without The Rock on the show. Remember that at the Survivor Series? With the golden egg?
Oh, Jesus.
That was a year ago, dude. We had last year's Survivor Series built around a golden egg, and this year it's War Games. Like, if that does not paint your change, I don't know what does, from one year to the next of what Survivor Series was.
The golden egg seemed to be something that Stephanie seemed to be quite proud of celebrating, along with the zombies, as examples of great.
I'm sure they made a ton off that Rock movie on Netflix. So, I mean, financially, I'm sure that was a big hit. We had to endure it, though. So, all right, that's going to wrap up the show. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Tuesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern time. It is MCU Later, reviewing Wakanda Forever. So, should I listen to the podcast after I watch the movie or before?
After, please, Sean. Are you still planning on going out to watch it?
I am. I don't know when, but I am going to see it.
Okay. Not that I feel like you would care about spoilers, but I still think you should, watch it first and then listen.
Okay. I was very careful with the image I chose for the schedule.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I wonder.
Was it okay?
It was perfect. Yeah, I mean, it was nothing. Like it was just like the logo, which is great. I'm trying to think what image you were considering now.
No, I didn't have another one, but whenever I have to use an image for one of these Marvel movies, I now have to what could I possibly be taking here after my Spider-Man disaster last year?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I was like, who cares?
He's trying so hard, everybody. Please cut him some slack.
Yeah, well, that's it. Wednesday, we're back with Rewind to Dynamite. We have said it all. Good night, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Rewind to Raw.